Friends, there exists a world where people yearn for every drop of water and are forced to go about their daily tasks without it. How will they manage when they don't even have enough to drink? But as always, the rich never suffer, no matter what the crisis. That's the case here as well. Large private companies have installed machines to extract groundwater because there are still places where it can be drawn from, and all the water that's extracted is supplied to the cities. The rich live comfortably, but the poor, sadly, are compelled to reside in the villages. Among these poor is the Holmes family, the father, Catherine, elder daughter Mary, and younger son Jerome. Enduring tough conditions, the family manages to survive in the village on a sizable piece of fertile land which the father used to farm. But due to lack of water, he's unable to cultivate it. He pleaded with the government, claiming his land could still yield crops if only it had water, but no one believed him. Thus, Honest himself started digging the land, hoping luck would favor him with water to revive his farm, so he could sell the crops and resolve his family's water scarcity. One day, as Honest was checking the machines he had set up for drawing water, two thieves arrived intending to steal them. Realizing Honest had come, they pretended to be travelers in need of water to garner his sympathy. However, seizing the opportunity, the thieves pulled out their own gun aiming to shoot Honest. But Honest, who dealt with such thieves regularly, acted swiftly, firing his gun and stopping them before they could shoot. It shows how desperate people have become for water, ready to take lives over it. When Honest checked his machine, he realized that even the little water that used to emerge was now gone, meaning he'd have to dig another well elsewhere and set up a machine to extract water.
He travels alongside the waterman with Jairam. Companions. The waterman represents a consortium of individuals employed by a corporate entity. Their job entails setting up substantial apparatus to draw water out from the depths and then distribute it throughout the urban area. Such individuals are also responsible for transporting libations or edibles and beverages. Laden with myriad wares from the metropolis on his steadfast donkey, he supplies these watermen. Within this circle of watermen is an individual named Max, who is slightly known to Ernest. Ernest tells Max that you have installed a big machine here. Not far from here is my field where water used to come like that, but because of your installing that big machine, the little water my field got is now also stopped. Can't you take your big machine's line to another place? Max says it's not my job, so if you have to talk, you can go talk to our boss. Ernest knows the boss won't listen to him, so he sadly, with his little face, leaves with Jairam to go home. But when a man's luck is bad, it doesn't take time for bad things to happen with him. The same happens with Ernest. He had a desire for that. During the return journey, his donkey stumbles on a rock and topples, resulting in a fractured limb. The poor creature, already parched from thirst, suffered further distress from the injury. With heavy heart, Ernest is compelled to mercifully put the donkey to rest, alleviating its torment. Companions, was there any action the unfortunate man could take? Subsequently, he arrives at an establishment where antiquated robots are refurbished and marketed. Ernst aimed to acquire a robot to personally manage his delivery duties. Additionally, at the auction, there's an individual who places a wager on the automaton. But in the end, Ernest gets the robot, which makes Ernest and Zero very happy that they finally got something useful. After that, they both come to the hospital, where Catherine lives. She had been a victim of an accident a while ago, so she couldn't walk. Hence, in the hospital, Catherine was connected through wires. Wires meaning what helps Catherine move. Now you see, Ernest doesn't have enough money to buy the wire system and bring it home. That's why he and his family members keep coming to the hospital to meet Kathleen. Now outside the hospital, Ernest's encounter. Ernest meets a guy named Robin, who is his best friend, very close indeed. He doesn't even have a house to live in. Additionally, he is a bit weak-minded. Therefore, Ernest gives whatever little water he has to Robbie and his family, because even though Ernest has a water shortage, he has a very good heart. As Ernest heads home, he encounters Phelim, demanding his robot for some urgent work, knowing well that Phelim is a notorious crook. Despite understanding that the robot will not be returned without drama, Ernest outright refuses to lend it. Friends, let me also tell you that Phelim and Ernest's daughter, Marika, are involved with each other. Ernest repeatedly advises Mary to stay away from Phelim, as he is not a good person, but Mary is not ready to listen. Because of Phelim, she's even begun to despise her own father. Tell me friends, are parents ever wrong? Children who don't listen to their parents often face misfortune. Wouldn't something bad happen to Mary too? Let's see what happens next. In the following scene, Ernest is seen digging another hole at a new location. hoping to find water, but the area had been dried out due to heavy machinery nearby. Thus, Ernest faces disappointment there as well. While digging, he talks to Gyron, saying he saw a girl in the city, small in stature but very beautiful. He offers to converse on behalf of the grown-up son, not knowing how long they can survive in these conditions. So they should live well in whatever time they have left. Friends, they continue chatting and spending quality time together. Once home, Mary tells him she needs money as she is leaving with Philum, feeling suffocated here. To which Ernest replies, emphasizing how he raised her since childhood and tried to provide everything, and yet she speaks in this manner. Mary retorts that instead of living, they are just surviving here and she doesn't want such a life. Even though Harvest tries to dissuade her numerous times, Mary's resistance leads Ernest to confine her in a room and secure the windows with obstacles to keep her from Philum, as Ernest believes he is safeguarding her well-being. He was on his way to the city to get supplies when he discovers that the robot is still functional, which distresses him and gets him worried. Realizing that no one but Philum could have done this job, he immediately rushes to the waterman to inquire if Philum had been there or not. However, upon arrival, Max and the other watermen attack Ernest and begin to beat him up. He is accused of stealing their supply, which was the result of their hard work and which he might have sent somewhere else. Ernest retorts in confusion, "What are you talking about? I came here to ask if Philum had brought my robot here, but instead, you are attacking me." Ernest had understood that Philum must have taken the supply from the city in his stead, and instead of giving it to the watermen, he absconded with it elsewhere. So, Ernest manages to evade the watermen and sets out to find Philum. And he does find him. Ernest's suspicions were correct. Philum had stolen the supplies and was comfortably consuming them. Consequently, Ernest points a gun at Philum, intimidates him, and starts taking him to the waterman to reveal that it was Philum who stole the supplies, not him. While moving forward, both are extremely exhausted, Ernest being the most, and moreover, his water had run out. Thus, attempting to deceive Ernest, Philum suggests that he had drunk only a little of the surprise liquor and proposes to share the remaining with Ernest. What would the waterman do? Kill me, right? But if we do not drink, we will surely die of thirst, Philum argues. Ernest agrees, but as soon as he releases Philum from his restraints, Philum attacks him instead. Poor Ernest, already exhausted and bleeding profusely from the beating, finds Philum force-feeding him the rest of the liquor so that when the waterman arrives, they would believe it was Ernest who stole the supplies and drank their liquor. And not just that, friends. He beats, and ties him up with the robot using ropes to make it appear to the world that the robot went out of control and attacked Ernest, leading to his death, which is exactly what happened. Poor Ernest is killed, my friends. So everyone thought that the robot took Ernest's life, so why does he always have bad things with good people, man? In the next scene, Germ sits very sad after losing his father. He is trying to break the robot by unleashing all his anger because he has now accepted that it was not the robot who killed his father. But we all know what is the truth. Then Ferrum comes there and says to Jiram, "What will you get by breaking the robot? This will come in handy for us in the future. So don't break it and don't worry. It's me. I'll take care of your family, take good care of you and America." Ataho, friends, is trying to become a murderer messiah. In the next scene, it shows that Philum comes to Max and says, "I need a water pipe so that with his help I can cultivate my land." Max says, "Am I your servant? Whatever you say and I will do." Then we tell him that, well, you will have to believe, friend, you will have to believe. That friend shows his knife and says, "Do you remember this knife? On that day when you attacked Ernest with supplies, Ernest took this knife from you. And I found this knife near his body with your name written on it. Everyone knows that you and he had a surprise fight the night before he died. So what was I thinking about going and telling everyone that during the fight Max could not kill Ernest, but the next day when he got a chance, he killed Ernest and blamed him." Hearing this on the robot, Max is panicked and believes the film and hides it from the company in a secret pipeline field. It starts running so that friends start getting water to the farm. Everyone is happy that farming can be done here again. The film friend's daily solution is so that the crop can be grown. Seeing that his hard work is brought color and the crop starts growing all around in the cultivation, which all the rest of the adults are happy to see. Also, Philum and Mary were in a relationship. Because of Jesus, Mary was pregnant, that's why they are getting married. He was very happy with the marriage, but inside he was also remembering that this was all I had taken from him. If he were alive today, he would not have married me. Nor does he get this farm. After stumbling, the movie gathers all his possessions. Unlike this persistent man who refuses to halt here. Observe his transgressions now. See his behavior in the ensuing scene where the arrival of bank clerks unsettles him, uncovering that crops have sprouted on the parcel you pledged, and with the proprietor's demise, the land with its harvest defaults to the bank. It seems impossible to believe. You ought to have shared this with me when the field lay barren, and with prior notice, searching another plot might have been feasible, but the bank shows no empathy. Their stance is rigid: settle the debt in a week or the land is lost. Post this ultimatum, they depart. The film was agitated, feeling duped by Ernest. Songster in rags, can you suggest a way to gather the funds? My friends, does it not mirror a burglar chastising the sentry? Nonetheless, he now procures a robot in hopes of its sale. My intention is to auction the robot to alleviate the bank's claim. However, this man was devoid of virtue. He draws near to Robbie, his confidant, with the guise of sorting necessities like water. The trusting Robbie, with his offspring, accompanies the film's lead. But heed my caution, dear audience, the protagonist's misdoings are far from concluded. He cunningly traffics the unsuspecting Robbie's offspring, a deed paving his way to repaying the bank. He tries to fight with the film's protagonist upon finding out, but there's no role for fighting where we've sold the child. Once sold, the deal is never broken. Therefore, those villains shoot Robbie dead, friends, and they even try to shoot the film's protagonist because they thought he was selling the child with Robbie's permission. So somehow, he manages to escape, leaving the robot behind because he has to tell that the money came not from selling the child but from selling the robot. What can we say, friends? Such a terrible man. That's why, friends, Ernest was convincing his daughter Mary to stay away from him in the next scene due to paying off the bank. This evil man proves it. Ernest was right to advise his daughter Mary to steer clear of him, as he now must justify the money he got, not by selling the child but by selling the robot. Friends, how vile a person he is. In the next scene, the robot decides to go to its original owner after the film company gives money to the bank, which leads to the land getting spread from Fit. This is because when the thugs were shooting at the robot and Phelan, the robot got hit by some bullets which caused its default settings to turn on, and that's why it's now heading to its original owner, Kelvin, who lives in the city. Kelvin is surprised to see the robot return. Whose robot has returned to me again? The robot has the names of friends and destruction written on it. Trying to contact Arne through the radio so he can come forward and take his robot back. As soon as he turns on the radio, he is surprised to hear that Falum had said he had sent the robot away. Now Calvin is saying that the robot is with him, so he decides that if he wants to return the robot, then no problem. That's great, I'll go and take it back. In the next scene, Jairam sees Robe's wife who is shocked by the non-return of Robbie and her child. She waits for Robbie and her child to come back, holding a doll. Truly, friends, a very bad thing has happened with poor her, and seeing this, John feels that there must be something that the film is hiding. After which he comes to the city border, but being under 18 years old, the guards do not let him enter the city. Then a girl named Anna comes there and tells John, "Come to me, I can send you to the city for very little money." Upon glimpsing Luciana, he is totally astonished since she is the spitting image of the short-haired girl Ernest had depicted. Recollect, companions, when Ernest suggested conversing with her for potential matrimony. Then, my buddy Yam quizzes me once more on Ernest, unaware of his identity. Ernest holds his peace, subsequently concealing Yam within a merchandise-filled wagon en route to the metropolis. Assisted by her, Yam arrives in the urban expanse. After arriving in the city, he meets Joe, who returns his robot to him. The bullets that had hit the robot, Joe had repaired it too. Not only that, he also adjusted the robot's settings correctly. As soon as Jerome looks closely at the robot, it is revealed that upon closer inspection, it is noticeable that a camera is installed which, utilizing a laser, captures footage. The video is somewhat blurry but sufficiently discernible to watch. Subsequently, Jerome glimpses the times shared with Ernest logged by the automaton. Included are recordings where Phylum slew Ernest, having restrained him with cordage to the machine. Witnessing these scenes, Chiram is shaken. The revelation strikes that his father's demise was no mere mishap, but a well-thought-out conspiracy of the film. Therefore, he takes the robot and returns home, and upon arriving, he doesn't reveal to Phylum that he knows everything, because if Mary finds out what all has happened in the film, she wouldn't be able to bear the shock. Moreover, she is also pregnant, so Jerome devises a plan. He tells Phylum that he heard on the radio that Robbie is calling for him. Hearing this, Phylum gets worried, thinking Robbie has died. Who is this Robbie calling? So he thinks maybe it's another Phylum who is calling for a draw, seeing the plan failing. Jerome writes a letter to Phylum so that it seems to him that the letter was sent by Robbie and he is calling him to the same place where Ernest had been killed. Reading the letter, Phylum realizes that something is amiss and he must go there to check it out. Therefore, he goes to the same place where he had killed Ernest. As he moves forward, he doesn't notice a pit on the ground and falls into it, breaking his leg and starts yelling for help. That's when Jerome arrives with a gun. Seeing so much anger in Jerome, Phylum realizes that he knows everything and that it was all Jerome's plan. Trying to appease him, Phylum says, "Look what happened, I am ashamed, forgive me, but see, I have taken good care of both Mary and you. If something happens to me, Mary won't be able to bear the shock. So let me go." But Jerome doesn't listen and shoots Phylum dead. Afterward, he also erases the robot's memory so that Mary could never see all this. He didn't want Mary ever to know the truth. Days passed. When Phylum didn't return home, Mary becomes very distressed. Jerome says he was never a good person to begin with, so I left him and fled, and hearing this, Mary becomes utterly sad and ends her love for Phelm from her heart. Instead, she starts to hate him, the one who took his revenge with such calm. Afterwards, Mary starts to manage the home, as they had inherited the farm. They plan to save money by selling the crops, so they can bring their mother home from the hospital. And with this mix of feelings, friends, the movie ends here. If you enjoyed the video or liked the explanation, please give it a like. Subscribe.